Okay, we'll switch the topic so you don't get exiled. How do you feel about Joe Rogan?
Whenever I think about all these people who've been either run to the right or been chased to the right, I might wrongly be doing this, but I think about Jordan Peterson as one that I followed a lot more closely. I was a much more dogged Peterson fan. And I don't think Peterson and Rogan are the same. But
why not?
They're very different people, just foundationally.
True.
They're like their psychology.
That's fair.
Yeah, Rogan is this funny, outdoorsy, adventure-y comedian. Funny
is generous.
That's fair. His last, not good. Rather than funny, I should say charismatic. He can carry a conversation very, very well. That's why he was successful. Anyone who says that he's not is just coping. He's obviously charismatic. He's less charismatic, I would say, in the last 5 years, but there's a reason he was the number one podcaster.
Fair, yeah. Joe Rogan theory. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You tell me what you think. Tell me if you think this is stupid. This is off of the top, but so basically, I think that Joe Rogan is somebody that uses his comedy as an identity and not so much as a job. Mm-hmm. I also think that's why he's not very good at it. I don't think he's able to separate his self-worth from the craft, and also I don't think he ever really understood it that well. So my thing is, during COVID, I feel like he was a bit more normal. But as time went on, and once he realized that this is going to take a while, and also I think people on the left, like you said, were a little authoritarian-y, but maybe also not enough. In certain ways, maybe we should have just said no going outside for 6 weeks, and then things would have been better. But as we all know, they dragged on, especially in California. Shit was really ass. You're shutting down small businesses, telling people they can't run restaurants and stuff. Yeah. And comedy was one of those things that was attacked. Obviously, you couldn't do stand-up and shit. So I think because Joe's thing, stand-up, was attacked, I think that set him off on a spiral. And because of his resources, he's able to have on people that will confirm his biases and tell him what he wants to hear. So after the interview with the guy that you saw, forgot his name, he started to just have more people on that agreed with him. Yeah. And then he had that one conspiracy theory dude, I forgot his name, on that really pissed a lot of people off.
Was it the doctor? The handsome doctor with the nice white beard and full head of hair?
Yes. Yeah, that's the one.
And he was a legit researcher who then became a pariah during COVID, right?
Exactly.
I'll try to look up his name while we're talking.
But yeah, so I think the more he would have those on, the more clips that people would see. And I think people on both sides were very intense. The left was if we don't all get vaccinated, I can see my grandma again. And then the extremes on the right were, why are you trying to push this thing on me? I don't know how I'm going to react to it. What if I get fucking AIDS in 6 years? People were very intense in that aspect. So I think it was the more times people saw Joe speaking against it, the more people that he liked that were more on the left would attack him because they saw what he was doing was dangerous. And then CNN went all crazy. And then once that had its own fucking moment, then I think it was kind of over.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was probably already conspiracy brained. I think that's obvious.
Very much so.
Always had that predilection. Which I wouldn't be surprised to find out if that's at a psychological level. Are you familiar with the personality test, the NeoPi, openness to experience and conscientiousness and stuff? Okay, so most personality psych tests that you'll take, Myers-Briggs and stuff, they're super fun, not super empirically valuable. Damn it. Sorry. But there is one.
INFJ was cool.
It is cool. Okay. I get I can't remember what it's called. It's E something. Extroversion for sure.
Boring.
But I think I'm called the main character or the protagonist. I'm the protagonist.
I just know mine's the most rare, so I like that. It makes me feel special. Yeah.
The special carrot.
It's not a big deal. 1%. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm the protagonist, and I'm probably 40% get mine, I'm sure.
Exactly. That's my point.
But the NeoPi is kind of this good evaluation. It's got millions of data points at this point, and it's normative. So
Okay.
it kind of looks at people's personality types and norms them against other people that are similar to them to kind of help you see like which percentile of openness you have. So they wouldn't give you like a letter where you're like, you're O for open, but you might be like in the 68th percentile of openness.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great. It's a really solid empirical way of measuring personality,
Look
and
this
it's
up.
decently predictive at aggregate levels. It's completely non-predictive at individual levels, but that's standard for most aggregate data.
I don't even know what that means. Aggregate level. What does that mean?
So it's real. Sorry, I'm talking in nerd language.
You gotta realize you're talking to somebody who dropped out of community college. So let's dumb it down just a bit.
It is really good at telling you what groups of people do. So generally, people higher in extroversion will act such and such a way, but it's not very good at telling you what a single extrovert might do.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah. But, and then I said, but this is kind of all aggregate data. It's called the ecological fallacy. If you take a group finding, most people who are extroverted will go to that party or will go out and do these things. It's not very predictive if you try to use the individual to predict what they're going to do next.
Okay, that makes sense. We learned something today. Yay.
Yep.
Okay, so, but back to Rogan. So you think his openness would be low?
He's clearly high in openness, but there's 5 factors of personality, but there's talk about other types of factors. One factor that I think is really interesting to look into is essentially like susceptibility to ideas, or like gullibility is sometimes how it's measured.
Yeah.
So in lots of studies on gullibility, for example, people who are most likely to get hypnotized are going to be higher in gullibility. So they genuinely are more likely to believe that they're hypnotized than others. It's really hard to hypnotize people who have low gullibility. Although I don't like using the word gullibility because we've kind of moralized that, where we think somebody's like bad if they like do or don't do something. But hypnotherapy is decently effective, so you're actually losing by not being gullible.
Really?
But also, I wouldn't be surprised to find out if people who are very conspiracy minded are probably also much more like have highly susceptible thinking. They're more likely to be convinced of things are true of them, and be convinced of things when maybe it's otherwise not true. I could be wrong, but I see him as one of these people. And so I think COVID was a breeding ground for people higher in that trait, that construct, to grow their distrust of all sorts of things. And you see that with Peterson, you see that with Tulsi Gabbard, but then on top of that, they have bad things that are unfair happen to them. I think the ivermectin thing, for example, with Joe Rogan was kind of insane, right? Like where people are being like, he's taking horse drugs. And it's like, it's just an antifungal. It's just an antifungal. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. But when you have COVID, fuck it. Throw the sink at it. Whatever works helps, especially in the early areas when we don't really know what might help in treatment. Like you may as well. There's no reason not to. But there was just this massive smear campaign to mock him about the ivermectin that I think was actually really wrong and silly. We were just like kind of all lying about him, and it was like super mainstream, right? Like I'm sure for him, as somebody who's like a comedian alt media guy, it's like one of this like first times where he's experiencing it for the first time. Like it seems like, especially if you see patterns, a coordinated effort to attack him and disregard him and paint him as an idiot, right? And I'm not saying it was this. What it probably was is a whole bunch of partisan hacks who are left-wing, and therefore I think the left at its worst is very smug and elitist, looked at Joe Rogan with no education taking ivermectin when increasingly medical misinformation was proliferating, and just wanted to attack him quickly about it because of a whole bunch of reasons as to why. Some of it good, some of it bad. And I think that like fucked with his brain.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what it was. And I think because he was doing so much shit before then, the left kind of had they had it out for him. So they kind of given themselves the green light to be even more even bigger assholes than they usually are. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean the left.
And he just can't get over it. My thing is like, get over it, dude. Like, I get it. They were mean to you, but like, it's been 5 years. Like, are we going to let this like dictate all of your beliefs? Can we get past this? Like, don't you think you have a responsibility to understand the truth when you have like the largest audience in the fucking country and you're going to interview the president and you're falling for like bullshit Twitter memes? Like, grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting, right? I think that's the part I don't understand about these people is I've never experienced a mass smear campaign that feels coordinated between legacy media, right? So I don't know. Like, I remember before I got into social media and hearing about people being like, the harassment's so bad. I was like, yeah, but you also like get to work from home and like have a pretty ideal life. So like fucking get over it, right? Yeah. And now I'm like 3 months after like a pretty like massive harassment campaign like that I've experienced, and I'm like, oh, okay, that shit sucks. Like, you know, I've like collected a few letters and whatnot for mental health issues. So it's like, okay, I was flippant over that. So maybe I just don't understand. But also there's a certain level of like, we thought you could be a better person than this. That I think is valid, that I can't. This is why I wouldn't defend Joe Rogan and like where he's come. He's clearly a different person. He's not as curious. He's less funny. He just was funnier back in the day.
Yeah, he's definitely more grumpy. I don't think he was ever funny, to be honest. But I'm a smug. I'm a comedy smug.
You're a comedy elitist.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But yeah.
But like his last Burnout or whatever it's called was terrible. It was so bad.
Oh, Burn the Boats, his last special.
So bad.
Yeah, that show was horrible.
Yeah. Right?
The fact that you're stealing jokes from Brendan Schaub is pretty fucking pathetic. That's about as low as it gets.
Yeah. And so it's like, that wasn't Joe 10 years ago. So he has literally unquestionably changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, even if we can understand why to some extent, there is this question where like that I posted Nick posed to our father-in-law being like, you always said that if your sovereignty of your country is threatened, you should fight for your country. And you used to get so frustrated with immigrants and refugees who wouldn't. And now you're criticizing Ukrainians because they want to continue to fight for their sovereignty. Like, where did your principles go? Right. And
what did he say to that?
He said, that's a good point. I need to think about that.
Respect. Okay. Well, he's better than most.
Yeah.
At least he didn't that's not real. That's the response that I get usually when I talk to a Republican.
Yeah. I also think like power to Nick. I don't know if I can do this with him. Nick does a lot of emotional heavy carrying and a lot of acquiescing, a lot of feelings carrying. I mean, like the left was so mean. You're right. And they're like, yeah, but the left was really mean. And you're like, yes, they were so mean. Which feels very infantilizing and babying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm tired of it. I try to be like the guy who's like, let me see both sides. But when I feel like one side just refuses to come in good faith, I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's fair, though.
I think it's incredibly fair. The question to me is it functional? Like, anyone who's like, I'm fucking over this shit, I'm like, yeah, it's super fair.
I get it.
Super fair. Maybe my hard line on Ukraine is wrong. I don't like. I can't. I have no tolerance whatsoever for like Russia sweeping at all. Fuck Russia. Fuck that shit.
Odd how we got to that point.
Yeah.
It's so odd that we got. So the Republicans would rather have dictator Trump and Putin than Kamala Harris as president.
Yeah.
How do you feel about again, maybe we won't talk about that.
The third term thing.
Yeah.
Not good. You know what I can say? Not good.
How do you feel about that? Like, I know what you're gonna say.
Yep, not good.
Yeah, not great. Okay. So this is something that wasn't in those videos. So I was watching one of Joe's podcasts, and he talked about where he gets his news from, and I figured you would know more about this than me, because I don't know anything about these people really. So the three names were Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald, and Michael Schellenberger. Yeah, Schellenberger. Do you know any of those people?
I know Glenn Greenwald. The
Okay.
first one, Matt Tebbe, I'm pretty sure as well. I just want to look up their faces because I'll know them. Oh yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah,
Matt
yeah.
Taibbi is a bald dude.
Yeah, he's this bald dude with like a super low brow.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of, never mind. That's a bad joke. You could do it to white people, right? It's fine.
Yes. Um. Okay, so do those names mean anything to you?
Matt Taibbi does. He's like a pretty intermixed with Russia guy. I
How
think
so?
he moved to Russia. He worked in Russia.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm looking, just so it's clear, I'm looking at his Wikipedia right now. So like, this is not on the top of my head. I really appreciate that you think I'm like an
Okay.
expert in any way on this. I am not.
Well,
The
I figured I would
opposite. I
ask.
am the polar
I figured
opposite.
I would ask because I had never heard these names before before I started doing research for this video. I looked them up a little bit. One thing I noticed that they were all pretty much people on the left that moved to the right. And I'm like, well, that's interesting.
They're like, Glenn Greenwald is this like weird, yeah, where he's like horseshoe left to right, but now he's mad because Trump, the deportations, like I think Glenn Greenwald, I mean, in fairness, or even Rogan came out being like, yeah, the immigration stuff's kind of fucked up. And it's like, yeah.
That's why I found that interesting too. Because after I learned he got all his information from those, I saw Glenn. Like, I just saw the thumbnail of him talking about the deportations, and then I see Joe talking about the deportations. I didn't see him criticize or say Trump's name specifically, which I still think is pussy. But at least he is like speaking out against them, kind of. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
The expectations with these fucking people are so low, even though it should be much higher. But you know, whatever. It's the world we're in.
Yeah, Taibbi is very agitative when I like looking through. He was part of the Beast. He's wrote a lot in Russia for Russia. And he was involved with the tweeting and the screenshotting of the Twitter file stuff. That's why I remember his name. So yeah, the reason why you might know his name, and I remember his name, is the Twitter file stuff. Which to me basically means he's like a pretty massive liar, because the Twitter file stuff is like pretty much bullshit from everything I've looked into.
Can you give your can you tell us, can you describe the Twitter files? Because I hear things, but I don't.
Basically, Elon Musk buys Twitter, and he provides a bunch of emails to Taibbi that basically, in their mind, what they claim is that it's articles discussing communication with Twitter and basically like public officials about the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. And basically they talked about how there was thousands of internal documents obtained by sources at Twitter that basically were exchanging for the opportunity to cover unique stories. They were basically exchanging like money and whatnot and favors with important political officials to basically bury the Biden story and give it like as little air as possible. And a bunch of other people got like wrapped up into it. Friend of the stream, Renee DeVista, is currently still getting talked to by the Senate. It's still getting investigated. But a bunch of people basically got blamed for like the CIA involvement and being paid off, and this deep rogue state situation that was like alleged involvement in trying to content moderate Twitter through FBI, CIA agents that were like powerfully connected to Twitter.
Okay. But the reality is it's a bunch of bullshit.
Seems like it was mostly a bunch of bullshit. Like one of the people, Renee DeVista, that's called like CIA Renee. She's claimed to be one of these CIA operatives pressuring Twitter. She wasn't even involved with the board. She didn't really have close connections. She was like, all these people are in the same social circles, right? A lot of the people who are Stanford politics law or Harvard law will then later work with the CIA or FBI, and then might also be cohorting in the same circles that politicians are. And then these levels of relationships were used to be like, see, there was this big scandal, and it isn't really holding up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of errors in it. Taibbi was like, these errors are nothing. And people were like, they're not nothing. These are kind of big errors. Mehdi Hassan became like a really big name through all of this by kind of pushing him on this stuff.
Okay. So Matt, probably not the most credible person to be getting all your information from.
No, I would not say so.
What about Glenn?
Glenn is kind of another just like crazy person. I shouldn't say crazy person. I'm being too dismissive. He is, again, another American journalist. He's very pro-Russia. I don't really know why. He seems to be like so pro-Russia.
I hear they're paying people.
Yeah, I mean, the tenant media stuff is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
He's very pro-Palestine as well. He's very critical of Israel and the relationship, which is why it's very weird that when Trump got into power, Glenn was still kind of pro-Trump, I think, from what I remember. And despite like Trump, like basically going full gloves off with Israel, just being like, fucking get him, like go at him.
What the fuck? Yeah.
So he's just been in a lot for being, he's a vegan. He's just like one of these kind of all over the place, kind of takes a lot of extreme positions. He's probably super, like a lot of people like, he's really stupid. He's probably not really stupid. He's like highly educated, but he's like, you know, like people where their ideas are so dumb, only a smart person could have it, where it's like this really coherent, using like suppositional philosophy to come to these like conclusions of a worldview, and then they doggedly hold to these like weird esoteric ideas because they've arrived to them through like math philosophy basically. And then it's just like they end up with like really deranged positions where they're like vegans that are pro-Russia, and like, you know, they're just kind of like all over the place.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah. So basically he's getting his information from idiots.
But
or people you shouldn't trust.
Potentially like Russian shills, or at least people like that Russia would probably love. I mean, I think a lot of people, like when I look at the current climate, like I look at it from a very psychological viewpoint. But I think one thing that I don't know how to disentangle well, Ryan Macbeth does a much better job. He's a Pentagon advisor for cybersecurity, but he talks a lot. He's got YouTube videos you should look into. But like Russia and China don't want to see America flourish. They don't want to see America and Canada and all these countries doing really well. They want to see our GDP burn. They want to see our country full of inner turmoil. And there's a really good quote from a book. I can't remember which book it is, but it's written by a political theorist. And essentially, misinformation is like one of the most effective ways to cripple democracy, whereas misinformation is how you empower an authoritarian regime, right? And so we've got this confluence of a new technology, social media, kind of increasingly taking hold. And then we have COVID, which for good intentions or bad, lock people in their home with nothing to do but be on their phones, and all being like pseudo armchair investigators because there's nothing else to do. And on top of that, a lot of people are isolated. And so you've got breeding grounds for developments of psychopathology. If you want to give a one-to-one perfect recipe of making somebody develop like a psychotic episode, put them in solitary confinement, right? Like that's what you do. You solitarily confine them and you give them minimal access to the world. And then in this case, give them an algorithm that is based on if it bleeds, it leads.
Damn. Yeah, that's not a recipe for success, huh?
It's really not. So when people are like, people's brains are broken, I'm like, yeah. Like people are like, Rogan's not the same anymore. I'm like, yeah, his brain might be kind of broken a little bit, like actually unironically. Or maybe maybe he broke his brain a little bit and now the grift is too good. It's too reinforcing. Maybe he believes it all now. Like maybe he's not grifting. I think it's more likely that he believes probably what he's saying. I
think he does.
It's just that it's reinforced by his social network. And he doesn't.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's in denial about how much he's changed through COVID. He has less people on that are new. He's not looking to explore and push and change his ideas. He seems pretty cemented in his ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think? Well, I'll just say what I think. I think, and let's just see if you agree. I think people at that stage really like owe it to society to not be this stupid. Like, I think it's like a moral issue for him to actually be this gullible and give like no pushback on anything.
I agree.
Like, I don't think it should be illegal, but I think it's like highly immoral.
I agree. I just totally agree. The issue is, how do you, in a society post-church, which for better or for worse, we've lost one of the main institutions that erected common moral systems, right? And a lot of people be like, for good reason. Sure, you could say that, but we didn't replace it. And so how do you even erect these morals? Which morals do you hold them accountable to, and how? Because I agree, I think it is immoral, but it's like, we don't even have the backbone societally of why we believe what is moral. Like, so often I hear people citing workplace policy for their moral system. They'll be like, oh, it's bad to date your boss. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, you're not allowed to. I'm like, that doesn't make it immoral. It makes it, there's problems with it, right? There's problems with it, but it's not immoral inherently.
Yeah. Well, I would just say, like, based off of the misinformation alone, I feel like if you have a platform that big and you are constantly spreading misinformation, like, maybe we should look at that. I don't know what to do. I'm not for like shutting people's channels down, but like, that should be a conversation, because like, we as a whole, we should agree. I think that you shouldn't allow to just have a career like knowingly lying about really important shit.
Right.
And I feel like everyone on all like sides of the aisle politically should agree with that. Like, Candace Owens probably shouldn't be a thing, but that's
but then
just
how
me.
how do you police that in a way that doesn't just bias one side, right? Where it's like,
it would have. What if you do it based off of like the facts, just information, just like that, things that are grounded in reality?
Because then you run into the problem that academia has had for a really, really long time, which is that, like,
What problem is that?
Which is the problem of what is the facts, what becomes axiomatic truths. What foundational truths, right? So, for example, pigs don't talk. And that would be an axiomatic belief. But if we, in science, right, if we find one talking pig, now everything's changed, right? And so part of this is, I think people have been very poorly educated on the scientific method, in large part because I think us, I'm including myself, us little science nerds got a little greedy. We got a little smug, and we're like, we're so smart. We know more. Look at all these people appreciating our science and our data. And then we got dogmatic about it, where we would say, well, there's a lot of evidence that suggests this claim, and therefore it's true. And people who would suggest the other, even scientifically literate people who would suggest the other, would be like, you're bad and stupid and wrong and dangerous. And it's like, some of these people went on to get Nobel Prizes, right? Like the people who discovered, what's the classic one? The gut ulcer thing. But some of these people went on to spread mass amounts of misinformation, like the autism vaccine guy, right? And so it's super tough. We've got replication errors, okay? Academia, as an institution, really overstretched how much truth could be known from it. And then we ran into a lot of problems, right? Like psychology is still reeling from our replication problem, our issues of non-publications of null findings, right? And null means non-findings, right? So if I test something, so here's a really classic one that people don't talk about. Stigmatizing language. Have you heard of the idea of stigmatizing language? Don't call somebody a schizophrenic. Call them a person with schizophrenia, that stuff.
For sure.
Came out of academia, because academia is full of really nice, well-meaning soy losers who don't want to be mean to people, which is fine. Sure. It's nice to not want to be mean to people, but also your sensibilities shouldn't come before science. And to be clear, there's lots of people in academia that think your sensibilities should come before science. There was a whole recommendation made where you shouldn't collect certain demographic information because unless you can justify why you might need to know somebody's like gender or age or race, you just can't collect it. When it's like, you might not know why you need it. And then you do analysis and you look and you see that actually literacy, particularly among this population in these areas, are significantly statistically lower than everyone else, which race realists would go, that proves that they're bad. When it actually proves there's probably some systemic like racial problems going on here. Like we're not giving them, they're not experiencing equal opportunities, at least with literacy. And we need to figure out what's going on there, right? But we get very spooked because race realists ran in and took science and stole a bunch of ideas, and then academia let them have them, like IQ, and was like, oh God, well, we don't want to be offensive, right? Stigmatizing language. Okay, so we all thought if you just stopped calling people schizophrenics and instead you called them people with schizophrenia, or if you didn't call people addicts, you called them people with substance abuse issues, that all the stigma that we have on addicts or schizophrenics would go away. And this was just, probably a lot of people still believe this. I worked in a lab that studied it. There is basically no replicable solid findings. There was a couple of positive findings. Most of the findings are null. Nobody finds an effect because the stigma isn't with the word, it's with the concept. We're not stigmatizing the word addict. We think people with addictions are gross, which is why we stigmatize them, which is bad, by the way. I think that's wrong, right? But the stigma isn't attached to the word. It's attached to the concept. But we've never published the null findings. And so people to this day still think that stigmatizing language increases harm to these people. And it's not really obvious that it does. It's mean at a clinical level. I try not to use stigmatizing language because I'm not an asshole. And I try to use the language that my clients would like to use. But what a waste of talking point. It's
why not post the null findings?
Because it's kind of the same rat race that media has in a much slower way. What's really exciting to have in a competitive journal? A positive finding of something that's like scientifically ground shattering, or a non-finding being like, yeah, this didn't work.
But shouldn't all things be posted just so we have the information out there?
I agree. But that's not what happens. Wouldn't
that be best case?
But that's not what happens, right?
Okay.
Because if you're a journal and you are going to post 50 papers, because it's a lot of work to publish papers because you peer review them, you have to have peer reviewers go through them. It's a big process. You can't just publish papers. You have to peer review it, and the peer review process is just intensive. You are going to select articles that are cool and exciting, and cool, exciting articles are typically ones with significant positive findings.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How do we start this? How do we get here?
I was talking about distrust in institutions, right? In academics, for example.
Oh, right.
Okay, right. And so in any way, and so what happened is that this was happening and a bunch of people started raising the flag. And internally, there was a fair bit of listening. A lot of people were like, yeah, that's reasonable. We should start doing like meta science and start studying our own studies and start building in replications. But then people at a public level would talk about it. And we'd be like, oh, conspiracy theorists. And it's like, well, some of them are not. There is a replication crisis. And so I think, unfortunately, right, we have this situation where we lie because we're ashamed and don't want to find truth. And paranoid people who think that the elites are out to get them see academics as the elites lying to them. That doesn't make spreading anti-vax narratives good. It's really bad and stupid. But it's not, these problems don't occur in a vacuum.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of like solutions, but I don't know what they are, man. I don't know what to do. I don't know. What do you think people should, what do you think?
I think the left needs to be better at, especially because I think generally the left tends to be more educated, a little bit more grounded in science literacy. I think they have the right policies, by and large, especially like the liberal left. We probably need to have a backbone. I don't think we
definitely need that.
You know, Chuck Schumer, just like being like, well, I don't want to shut down. It's just like, bruh, come on.
What a bitch.
Yeah. Right. So we need a backbone.
Yeah.
But who will lead the Democrat Party? I don't know. I have no
You
idea.
have any people you want to see that you think like I could see it?
If Bernie
I saw
was
AOC speaking
20 years
yesterday, and I was
younger?
like, I think she could pull it off.
Maybe,
I
especially
think she could pull it
if
off.
Bernie mentors her, I think she could. But there's a lot of internal party energy that's very anti-AOC. She came in
True.
very progressive and very hot,
Yeah.
and made a lot of non-friends in the party.
She's gonna have to trump it. She's just gonna have to take over and just trying to call these people out. That's what I think would work.
Yeah. She's got some blemishes in her past, right? That like photo op in front of like the immigration facility crying. And it was like shown to be just like her in front of a field. It was like not good.
Oof.
Yeah. It was a bit of a
didn't know about
yikers.
that.
Yeah. So she's had some yikey moments. The problem is every politician has had a yikey moment.
True.
That wouldn't make me disqualify her. It's just like when you're thinking about a campaign of like who we have to manage, we are starting at a disadvantage, right? Democrats are very uncool, very cringe, and
Very.
increasingly viewed with disdain. So it's like whoever we select, there has to be a lot of planning and thought into that to undo the negative views from the left and then from the right. Well, who cares about the right? From the left, at least, so that we can all like rally behind somebody. And historically, we've botched the last two women's campaigns with the worst possible
Gotta
fucking
be a guy.
PR.
Sorry.
I think it could be a woman. We just have to stop giving them fucking
I'm just kidding.
PR people who are stupid, who just are like, hey, Kamala, you know what would be great? Let's pretend you're an old senior white man. And that's the branding we'll go for. And it's just like,
Yeah, I don't
why
know
did we
what
do
they were
this?
thinking there.
She's cool. It's cool that she is like louder and she's like has a lot of like elements of black culture and stuff. Like all that stuff is cool. Her PR team that she had originally was awesome. And then they're like, Anita Dunn, now that you're done with Biden, how about you go to Kamala? And it's like, why did we ever think Anita Dunn would be well matched with Kamala? Nobody did. Anita Dunn just has seniority, which is why she got it. But it's like, that was a terrible decision. Nobody should have ever let Anita Dunn come anywhere within 100 feet of Kamala's PR campaign. Because when Kamala started, when she exploded onto the scene, that was her team. And then as she got decided as in the DNC as being our selected like
Nominee.
there you go, then they switched the PR team and suddenly they're like, you know what we need? $380 million dedicated to TV ads. And you're like, okay. Good job.
I've heard about this switch. I've heard about this. Okay, yeah, fuck. And that's not really her. Kamala has no control over that. Why couldn't she be like, see things are going terribly and be like, hey, can I bring my people back? Because this lady sucks.
I don't know, right? Because it's like Trump clearly has control. And he did in 2016. He would just be like, fuck you, you're fired. And it would just go. So this might be, I don't know. I don't know the insides of that. I have no idea whether she just got pressured a lot from other, like the Obama camp maybe to like stick it out. I have no idea. But maybe that was her flaw. She was just too spineless to tell Anita Dunn to fuck off and that she's doing a bad job. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like, that definitely would have been the right call to make. How do you feel about somebody like Tim, Mr. Walls, Mr. Tampon Tim? You don't think he can pull it off?
I really liked him.
Me too.
I don't know. He would really have to brand himself, I think, a bit more masculinely. He's a little too huggable, squishy dad of 6 girls, which, to be clear, I love. I loved him. He seems...
But you understand you're not the only person voting.
Exactly. In fact, I'm the guaranteed base.
Sure. True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he really fucked up when he was way too nice to JD Vance. I think he really fucked up there.
Yeah.
And like the tampon thing isn't even real. We looked it up and it's not real bullshit. It's not real. So it's like, what the fuck? I don't know why he doesn't just fight against that just a little bit. Don't like throw trans people under the bus, obviously, but it's like they're spreading a narrative about you that's not even based in reality. So
yeah. I don't know. I don't know why he really underperformed on that debate. It was just really weak.
So easy. It's like, bro, these people are so easy to make fun of.
Debate is hard. debate is not the like being improv prepped and being prepped and delivering are very different. Like Trump is fantastic at improvisation, right?
True.
The fist in the air after being shot and just like the random jokes that he makes. They're very mean, but like some of them are pretty funny. They're just like insane for somebody to be saying. Maybe the Democrats, maybe the Democrats suck at improv because they're so fearful of it. I don't believe that there's just this massive talent vacuum. Like there's no way that just Democrats, all of these leaders are just not skilled orators. There's no way that's true. So something's happening.
Yeah, it makes them come off as inauthentic.
It does.
And I feel like that's something you can't really be nowadays.
Yep.
I think Trump kind of destroyed that.
But the problem is
even
on the
though
left.
he's
sorry.
Fucking crazy. No, I wasn't saying shit.
Well, the problem is on the left. How do you be authentic?
Well, it's 2028.
Why not? What do you mean?
Need to be a bit more
I feel like it should be easier now, especially if your policies are actually helping people. If you're really coming from that place, because Trump, like, he's just lying.
What if your authentic self is to make like some slightly less PC jokes?
I think that like it depends on how far you're going. I mean, we saw the Jasmine Crockett thing. I don't know. I wouldn't say that's affecting her in a negative way necessarily. I don't know. I don't really know what she's going for, but I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like there's a lot less tolerance on the left for authenticity, right? We're very quick, I think, to be like, oh, you have this flaw? You're evil and bad.
On the far left, for sure.
Who dominate our media culture a lot of the time.
That's true. Like but that's why I think a lot of liberals are just like maybe left-leaning people who aren't fucking insane should speak out against the far left too. Like let it know where your lines are so you're not associated with these people. They don't do that either, which is annoying.
They haven't, right? Like Joe Biden and even AOC. AOC was on Hassan's stream like just recently, which that might be a good ploy if she can pull Hassan's audience to support her and be more pro-democracy. That could be a good thing. But also, to a lot of liberals, you're being like, sorry, why are you butting up with the terrorist propaganda guy? Like, that feels weird, right? But
yeah, I wonder if she knows.
There's no way she doesn't. Well, that's not actually true because, you know what? She might not because the Democrat Party does not understand alt media, like, whatsoever.
Clearly.
Yeah. I mean, that was my job, like, the last year was, like, trying to, like, inform them as like this like small time like nobody, like of all people, me, right?
But you have an understanding.
Probably.
You don't need to be the biggest person to know about the culture of it.
Sure, I agree. It's just like it's really disappointing. Like it's insane to me that it's like me, like I'm the one that gets trickled in because they aren't just going directly to the largest content creators and being like, how do we connect with you guys? Like,
I know.
What
seriously.
Do you want?
Yeah, why do you think they're so far behind? What do you think it is?
They're very stodgy.
Okay, what does that word mean?
Like stiff and proper. There's a lot of like white homeowners association energy in like the institutional left. A lot.
Okay, that makes
especially
sense.
Amongst liberals. Like the liberal side, as much as I agree with their policies, they're branding like, bro, you know who I'm not going to the party with? A bunch of liberals.
Yeah.
There was a DNC after party and they were all like dancing to Fuck Donald Trump, the song. And I was like, this is so lame. So lame.
Yeah, liberals are dorks.
They are dorks, which is why we need our cool leftists to like work together because the leftists have the aesthetic down. Like Hassan just is the biggest political streamer, whether we like it or not, because he's got good aesthetic.
Crazy.
I agree. So it's like I'm
not seeing a lot of hope here. I'm not seeing how this gets better. Hassan's not going to be any less fucking insane. Yeah, his fan base is going to be cutthroat if you don't agree with him on all the things. I don't think you can agree with Hassan on all the things.
Nope.
And win.
Nope.
So I don't know. But there's no way the Republicans win next time. There's no way. They're going to fuck things up so bad, and then people are going to be like, well, the world's horrible, let me switch, right?
The problem is, almost always there's a shift left at midterms because it's the left base that votes in midterms. Usually Republicans don't vote for midterms as much. So we'll win back a fair bit at the House, probably. That would be precedent, at least. And there's a lot of people mad about the tariffs. So I wouldn't be surprised that more people turn out. But the problem is then you get complacent because now you have 2 years where basically Congress will be effectively able to like kneecap Trump.
Right. Why not just, do you think they'll get him out of there, or do you think they'll just like hold him to do less crazy shit?
I don't know, because the first time they tried to impeach him, it was like such a flop that I feel like even the cudgel of impeachment is just like nobody even cares. Wasn't Biden impeached as well? Like it's just like all these things that used to be really big deals. There's at least an attempt to impeach Biden.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I don't know if it went through. Right, but it's like all these things are just
this is so depressing. I think I'm gonna move to Thailand. Do you think that's crazy? In like a month.
Wait, like actually?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go there. Yeah.
Oh.
The end of May.
Forever? Are you getting like a visa?
Well, I would say at least a year.
Okay.
I know they have like working visas where you can stay there for 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be there for 5, but yeah, part of me is like, I should get the fuck out of there because fuck this country. This is what you idiots wanted. Have at it. And then another part of me is like, it's my country. I want to be like a good creative person. I should be here and fight for it while things are fight forable. But then I'm like, the fuck can I do? These people are delusional. I don't know what I can fucking do. What do you think as a foreigner?
I mean, I already said, I think optimism is a strategic necessity. In large part because it's like, this is where we're at, where it's like, so either we be optimistic and we fight and we like struggle for something that matters, or like, I guess we should all just like move away and give up. Which we could do, but it's like, I don't know, you know that like famous like Brené Brown, well, it's Jefferson, but like Brené Brown, like there's a man in the arena. Do you know that quote?
Of course not. Anytime you say, do you know that? The answer is no. Just assume that I don't.
It's a great quote. It's by it's not Jefferson. It's fucking Theodore Roosevelt. I'm sorry. He says, I'll read it in full to you. Okay, it's a good one. It's not the critic.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.